Welcome, everyone, to Night Terrors Radio, the quickest hour on the internet. I am one of your hosts, Ash Hamilton of horror-fix.com. As always, I have the ever-vigilant, cherubic Rob Pastillo. I've noticed you shaved a little bit, Rob.
I did. I cleaned up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took a few years off of you.
I still have a face for radio, though.
I have also got, from Illinois, again, my condolences. I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Mr. Sean Ed, how are you doing, Sean?
Good. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
And we also have, as a special guest, author Gina Fava. How are you doing tonight, Gina?
I'm great. How about you guys?
We are lovely.
Good to talk to everybody. Thanks for having me.
We're absolutely lovely. We can't wait to get into not only your books, but just a little bit about your life. We'll get into some really uncomfortable things that happened during puberty, if you want to go ahead and hit that angle, because these are the hard-hitting journalistic views that we share with our audience. So
That's mostly you. Mostly you.
Mostly me. Mostly me. I just want to see if I can find a kindred soul. That's it.
I can't wait to hear all about it.
So many of my memories mimic the Stephen King Carrie novel, and I'm just hoping that someone else went through what I went through. We've got a lot to cover tonight. In addition to talking to Gina, we've got news. We got a couple new segments we're going to go through. Again, it's the fastest hour on the internet. So glad everyone could make it. Everybody in the chat room, please interact with us. It makes us feel validated. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. Also, since we do not have open lines tonight, feel free to ask questions in chat. We will try to relay those to Gina. So we're doing something a little bit different tonight. We are formatting the show. After doing almost 100 shows, we decided, let's do something a little bit legitimate. Let's put a little more production value into this thing.
I don't know
and
why.
Actually segment it. So we've got a couple things we're doing new tonight. We are going to talk about the news. So we've got a couple things we're going to head into. Here. These are the hard-hitting news pieces that people have come to expect from people of integrity like ourselves on Night Terrors Radio. We have got everything from siring alien hybrids all the way down to suing wildlife and game for not acknowledging the existence of Bigfoot.
That's going to be the one I love.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now.
Our man on the scene, our roving reporter, Sean Ed, has a fantastic story coming to you from the very armpits of New Jersey tonight.
Yes, thanks, Ash. This is from Lon Strickler's Phantom and Monsters. Now, I know we're all worried about illegal aliens entering the country, and I think we're a little too late on this because right now I have just read an article that David Huggins, he's an artist out of Hoboken, New Jersey.
So he's
Hoboken
flipped the script, right? Instead of worrying about illegal aliens entering the country, David has been indeed entering illegal aliens.
He has. He claims to have fathered 60 alien hybrids with as he quotes, a voluptuous alien woman named Crescent. I'm assuming Crescent Moon.
Good for David.
Not croissant, and he spelled it incorrectly. So, and this has been happening since he was 17 years of age. He's now 70.
Wow.
Ash,
yeah.
I both lived in Jersey. This doesn't surprise me at all. Surprise you at all?
And oh no, not at all.
I can hear the conversation now. Oh, so this girl, Crescent, like she comes up to me. She's like some alien girl from like, I don't know, like Venus or something. I don't know. I wasn't even paying attention. But so
or
like,
Fairlawn. I don't know.
Yeah, Fairlawn. Like she came over from Teaneck. Like just one of them crazy chicks from over there. I can hear the conversation now. I mean, I can hear it in my head.
Oh yeah.
Well, according to David, Mr. Huggins, he claims that he did also meet through, I'm going like kind of mixers, like human cuckold type, alien cuckold type of mixers, that they also met some other hairy aliens, and in
You
insectoid
had me
aliens?
at alien cuckold.
I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
trying
You know
to
the
bring
deep
integrity
dive I'm gonna have to do
to
tonight
this
on
news.
Pornhub because of what you just said.
Yeah, that's instantly
Hang on.
already
I'm
yeah.
picturing like the beginning of Animal House,
right.
like where they all show up at like the, and they're like, Lonnie, have you met Jug Dash? And
Right.
oh my god, oh,
But he was
Oh.
he claimed that he is
Oh,
a
God.
one alien man. Now he met these other hairy aliens, these other insectoid aliens.
But he's monogamous.
He wants croissant. That's all he wants, which is obviously her alien stripper name. So
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe Destiny, but Croissant
be.
is just as good.
croissant.
So
Yeah.
he's been with her from the age of 17 to the age of 70?
Well, now according to him, that's when they first had their first intimate experience.
They're tryst.
Yes, but he's actually been abducted. He claims since he was 8 years old, but nothing happened until he
Okay.
turned of the ripe age, legal age of 17.
Okay, so they do acknowledge statutory terms then.
They do. Yeah,
the aliens do. Okay,
the aliens.
yeah.
New Jersey statutory terms only.
Oh, well, that's a completely different world altogether then.
yeah.
Well, that's
We go
'cause-
further south. Yeah, different,
Yeah.
different
And all bets
altogether.
are off if you own a Camaro with
It's all
T-tops.
allowed.
If you own a Berlinetta with T-tops in Jersey, you're golden.
Hey, the car that I bought when I turned 17, Rob, gold Camaro, a gold 82 Camaro Berlinetta.
It doesn't get any more North Jersey than that. Did it have-
No.
Did
no,
Did you have
no.
a little Italian horn on the hanging from the rearview mirror?
Oh yeah, I just had a cannoli.
Well, the whole thing is, it doesn't matter. Your last name could be O'Sullivan. If you're from North Jersey,
Yeah.
you have the Italian horn. It's there. You don't. I don't know why.
So can you, Rob? Can you do your best imitation of an Italian horn? What does that sound like? Is it kind of a wah, or is
No, it kind of sounds like Mingy. Why are you busting my balls?
Right.
Why are you giving me a hard time? Look
Sure.
at me. Look at me right here. Why are you busting my friggin' couillons, huh?
Yeah.
How'd I do, Gina?
Pretty good. Sounds like home.
I'm just glad I got to tell the tale
just
of my
from
82
Buffalo, so-
Camaro Berlinetta.
All right. I'm sorry. I was making fun of your news story, Sean, but that
no,
was-
it's okay. No,
woo.
you know, I think we should just be on the lookout. It doesn't say anything about any sort of child support payments or it's gonna
Yeah.
if he's breeding Maury in for any sort of paternity test, but that's left out of the article. But I think we should just keep a lookout. I'll have to see if I can find a picture of artist David Huggins. So if you see a guy that looks very similar to him but with tentacles or
Yeah.
anything like that, we'll have
Just-
to
This kid.
Covered in
Yeah.
stardust. That
yeah.
would be Mr. Huggins.
Or like
Oh,
Mac and Me and like this guy, that would be oh my god.
All I can say is I feel sorry for the star children of Huggins.
Yeah.
Having to split that inheritance 60 ways.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
one of those
and I'm
kids is going to
sure
walk away with
it's-
a 1973 Time magazine. That's it. That's all he had left.
It's probably all there is left.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 70 years old and lives in Hoboken.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about something from our good friends up north, an Alberta man. And we might actually know this person. This is Todd Standing. So Todd Standing is responsible for a Netflix documentary called Discovering Bigfoot.
I have
Todd
watched it.
Standing
Yeah.
is also suing the state of California. So Todd, who was originally from Edmonton, studied at the University of Alberta, said he intends on bringing forward overwhelming evidence to prove the Sasquatch is indeed a species and that it exists in the wild in California. So there is a date set. He's going with PhDs, wilderness experts beyond himself, with wildlife biologists. They've got fingerprint experts. They're going to prove so beyond a reasonable doubt that this species exists. Standing said from California. an undisclosed location. So when we prove that and we're successful, these are the words of Todd Standing, the species will be recognized as an indigenous wildlife species, and then Fish and Wildlife, who are the true villains here, in California, in Canada, in the United States, everywhere, will have to start recognizing the species and studying them, doing biological surveys. Standing said he has DNA and hair samples, much like Todd Huggins, zing, that prove Sasquatch
Heyo.
not only exists in California, but in British Columbia and Alberta as well. So Todd Standing, the man behind the Netflix documentary Discovering Bigfoot, has focused his research on the Pacific Northwest and said an area near Nordegg. Wow, Nordegg, not exactly for sure where Nordegg is located, but he said that this
I'm
area near
guessing it's
Nordegg
in the woods.
has
I'm
seen
guessing there's a
partic-
trailer park.
Always.
I'm guessing
Always.
there's a trailer park, a beer store, and someplace that sells jerky.
And there's a cash exchange place down the road, and it has 24-hour video gaming, just in case you're interested. So half his evidence is from Alberta, he said. I've had lots of success in Alberta, but I have one particular research site north of Nordegg that they've had live interactions with Sasquatch there. Now, what's interesting as he's bringing his suit to the state of California, this has not been the first person that wants to sue wildlife and game, because there was another person, a San Bernardino County woman, who was suing the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and State Natural Resources Agency for not acknowledging the existence of Bigfoot. So this is Claudia
What's the
Ackley.
reason? What's the reason for it? Are they trying to protect them?
I think in Todd Standing's case, yes. He wants them acknowledged so that certain, I guess, restrictions can be put in place. So that
no
if they-
Sasquatch jerky and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
Got it.
Right, and especially if Todd Huggins is out there, there will be Sasquatch jerky.
There will be.
I'm gonna, no pun intended, I'm gonna milk that one for all it's worth. So,
Oh, heyo.
Wow.
so Claudia Ackley told the press enterprise she ran into the long-fabled creature while hiking in Lake Arrowhead last year. Ackley said she was hiking late one March day when she and her two daughters ran into a Sasquatch. Now, Ackley's position is a little bit different. Ackley is saying, unlike Todd, who's definitely going for the angle of endangered species, trying to protect these creatures, Ackley says she was so frightened, she believes that they need to be acknowledged from the perspective of preparing people if they do see one, because of how overwhelming the ordeal was to her and the fact that she felt as though she was in danger. So she wants them looked at more as an indigenous animal that might be dangerous, so that people will be, of course, sort of be leery, stay away from them. And Todd is looking at them more as a protected species.
She saw the Sasquatch with that had been doing the lunges. That's what
she
happened.
did. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She saw
It was
the
in.
really, like the hulked up one.
Yeah.
Not the
He
hairy
had that
matters.
T-shirt that said "All That Az" on it. AZZ. Az. That's,
It's all about the gays. Yes.
oh, it is. It
And
is
I
most
guarantee you,
certainly.
he filed his lawsuit and went, "I'm sorry about this. I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so
sorry. I'm gonna
sorry.
file a lawsuit, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So sorry.
So sorry."
I envision a protected species ending up in a zoo. What if they catch a Sasquatch and they put it in a zoo, put it in a conservation area? And what are they planning on doing after all of this?
All I know
So
is
it's protected. What kind of rights does this animal have?
but give him a
It
bandolier,
makes you wonder.
and I'm gonna take myself home a Wookiee.
Right?
Yeah.
Chewy. I'm all ready for Chewy.
It's like every single October is gonna be the best holiday
That's
ever for
nuts.
me. Walking
That's
down the
nuts.
road with my Sasquatch.
On a leash, though.
Oh, that's definitely on a leash,
Just get him one of those
especially if I'm
staff
in New
collars.
Jersey.
Just get him a staff collar, like
Mr. Huggins might be out on
Yeah.
the prowl.
Oh,
And please clean up after your Sasquatch.
yeah.
Yeah. A 70-year-old man walking towards me with a tinfoil hat on and some rooflin. It's not going to go down well.
It's crazy.
Mm.
And that, folks, was the news from your friends at Night Terrors Radio, filling your head with stuff you never knew you wanted.
Yeah,
So I
you
can't,
never needed.
and you
didn't know
never knew
needed
you
to know
needed.
this. Right. It's perfect. But now that you know it, you're like, thank God I know that.
So I can't express how happy I am and how excited I am to be able to talk to Gina Fava tonight. Gina is a new guest. We've never had Gina on. It's going to be nice sort of pick her brain. I do have one sort of fundamental question that I love to ask the guests that we have, and especially new guests. First of all, can you let people know sort of where you're talking to us from and give us a little bit of background on how you became Gina Fava, author, and just get the audience a little acquainted with yourself, if you don't mind, Gina.
Yeah, sure. Right now, I'm talking to you from my office/closet, hiding myself away from all the people in the house that do have COVID. So it's good to talk to you. I am from originally from Buffalo, New York, but living in Massachusetts, and I'll pretty much write anywhere. A lot of my books have they're set in Italy because I do love to get back there and visit, and I don't know, they always get stuck in my head, different crazy scenes, especially thrillers that I don't know, the streets of Rome always seem ripe for it. I became an author, I think, because I was always making up stories, telling them to my friends, and decided to write them down. And I love the idea that I'm on this show talking about scary stuff because I do enjoy a good scare. And the books that I have that I consider thrillers are ways of really kind of even trying to figure out what scares you the most, psychologically, as well as, say, in terms of extraneous forces like a serial killer. So, the whole inner conflict and exterior things that will scare you, jump frights, things like that.
So
Now,
how do you,
I was just sorry,
it's all right. It's okay.
talking over each other all
Go
night.
ahead. Go ahead, Rob.
I will. Did I hurt your feelings?
You stole my nut just a little bit, Rob, but go ahead.
Do you need a Band-Aid for that, boo-boo? So
As
I
you
will
were.
say that I will say that I read The Sculptor. I read Gina's book, The Sculptor. Sean and Ash will attest to this. I have a terrible poker face. If we have a guest on and I think their stuff is terrible, it shows right here. There's no two ways about it. Am I lying?
No.
I'm just thinking of a Todd Huggins joke for Poker Face.
Okay.
So I'm a little distracted. My apologies.
We're back to Ash at 14.
Yeah.
I never really left, actually.
So for me to be excited about a book, our viewers will know, our listeners will know, it's a good book. If I'm, I have a terrible poker face. I cannot, make people believe that I like something if I don't. It just doesn't show. So, and I was talking to Ash about it, and I said, listen, I read the book, and I was like, I think it was like 10 or 15 pages left. And I'm like, yeah, I figured it out, because I'm one of those assholes. It's like trying to figure out the ending. And then I was like, oh no, I did not figure it out. And then I was like, wait a minute, there's more. So it got to that point where I was like, okay, you got me twice. You didn't just fool me once, you fooled me twice. And to me, like, it was, there's something about like the way you wrote it that kind of had that Harlan Coben, Kathy Reichs kind of feel. It was awesome. It's an awesome book. I strongly suggest, to the people that are watching this, pick it up. It's worth the read. Tell us, can you tell me a little bit more about your mindset when writing it?
Yeah, wow. Thank you for saying so. That's great. I appreciate the fact that you enjoyed the ending, because one of my favorite things when I'm reading, and I read a lot of Harlan Coben, Matthew Riley, Thomas Harris. I read a lot of stuff. And what I look for is a really, really good twist. For me, plot is great, character is everything, but I love when I'm thrown in multiple directions, especially at the end when I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed that, because I enjoyed writing it that way. It was a lot of fun, and I found myself in a similar situation because I like my female protagonist from that book. I studied abroad at the time in Rome, and in doing that, backpacking to a few cities, I honestly, just as I moved about, I just kept thinking about great ways that murders could be committed as I went along. And honest to God, it's just, the people who know me say, I can't believe that you think that way. And it's entertaining. It's a lot of fun to really think about the crazy things that could happen when you're on a ski lift, or, walking down a street and, you see a particular person and you think, ooh, what's their story? So really that's kind of where it evolved, was a little bit of my life and just kind of finding the scariest ways, I guess, to kill people and figure out who did it.
Were you an avid reader as a child?
Yeah. My dad would tell me, put down the book, go outside. So I did. I went outside with the book. But no, I did. I read a lot, and I'm actually sitting facing my my bookshelf right now, and it's it's not so, just everything thrillers, but it's a lot of the classics, a lot of influences from Stephen King, from Dean Koontz, just a lot of the things where it wasn't all just about the jump scare, but it was all about how can I make you think that something can't possibly get worse, but it does. And that's what interests me.
Now, I'm particularly jealous of this generation of readers because when I was growing up reading, there was a pretty large gap to fill as far as young adult reading went. I mean, I don't know if we can all acknowledge that, but it was basically children's books, early reader books, and then it was a pretty large chasm between that and the adult books that you'd read. So either we all sort of started to read adult books, and then we're introduced to concepts we probably should have been introduced to at that age because, we just needed something to read, or we were sort of stuck reading like the further adventures of like Bunnicula, is stuff that was more sort of elementary style reading, but there wasn't a lot, especially for males, by the way.
The Hardy Boys suck.
In junior high to early high school reading, that young adult age, there just wasn't. And I think there wasn't really much for girls either. And it was very it was just a lot of gender tropes like Sweet Valley High and things like that for girls.
Yeah.
Now, walking into a Barnes and Noble and walking into the wonderland that is the young adult section, I'm extremely jealous. I think we can probably thank, franchise books like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, all these books, even the Twilight books, probably for sort of ushering in this new generation of readers and giving them a lot to read. But I'm personally jealous. Like when I go into like mystery, suspense, horror, even science fiction and fantasy, I see the section, and then I walk into young adult. They've got banners. They've got those blow up things that are waving back and forth like a used car lot. It's a presentation. Like there has to be, and the industry almost has to be run on young adult right now. That has to be where the money's at.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like you mentioned Sweet Valley High and all. I mean, that was all we had basically. But you're right. When my kids were going through high school and they, middle school at the time, they were picking up a book because it was required reading. And I'd read things, and I can think about a series by Michael Grant. It's called the Gone series. It was 7 books, and it was all about this dystopian world where the adults are gone. What do the kids do? And it really reminded me of Stephen King's Under the Dome, and the writing was excellent. I mean, it's not just formulaic, dribble for the kids just to say, I read it. It's actually really, I mean, they're clamoring to read more. And, then you've gone into the Divergent series and the Hunger Games series and the Maze Runner. And there's so much that the kids are lucky to have, but at the same time, it's making them readers. I mean, it's not just Harry Potter. They're now, my son is saying, well, what is there beyond this? And I give him all my Stephen Kings. I'm like, you need to read this. And it's like a whole new world, and it's fantastic. It is a good bridge though.
It is. I mean, I think a lot of those serial books, a lot of the those episodic readers are really, really opening up young readers right now. I have a 9-year-old who's actually reading the episodic books for Five Nights at Freddy's, which is his favorite video game. And it's interesting to me because, people talk about, unfortunately people talk about sometimes how obsessed a lot of kids are with video games. But for my kid, it opened him up into reading, strangely enough, because he became obsessed with the mythology behind it. And now he's reading those books. So when you started to make some of those transitions as a young reader, like what were some of the, and we'll use the word adult loosely, as in Stephen King, Dean Koontz, what were some of the books that you graduated to that you remember the most?
Well, like you said, we had to graduate early. We had to go from, reading a Nancy Drew when we were just kids, well, Hardy Boys, whatever it might be, and trying to find something out there that again wasn't just kind of formulaic, episodic, little stories about certain characters. It was something that you could really sink your teeth into. So I think I really jumped into, it came out, and The Stand came out, and it was mind blowing because there was nothing else out there that I knew of. And Dean Koontz, eventually Odd Thomas came out, but before that was just, he had a bunch of standalones that, I think that's kind of what set me on my path to figure out my own characters personally.
The Bad Place was a standout for me of Koontz's novels. I think he pushed the envelope with a lot of concepts on that definitely bordered upon just very strange, surreal, dark fiction in that book.
Or Hideaway, so dark.
Yeah.
And he'd have those things at the beginning, something that he used to quote at the beginning of every novel, and it would just kind of set the pace for the whole thing. He was dark, but it was entertaining.
Well, now that we know some of your influences, can you give our audience a little bit of an idea of what they can expect from Sculptor?
Again, it's more or less a whodunit. There is a female grad student that's being targeted, and she finds out that there is a serial killer in Rome who's targeting grad students all over the city. He's the sculptor because he basically murders to gather body parts for his own personal display. And she finds out that the reason he's targeting her is because there's ties to her past. So
don't get too far into it. Make people read it. I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, she takes it upon herself to go after him and kind of incorporates a whole bunch of people who could possibly be helping her or possibly be suspects. And I think that's kind of what's so intriguing about it is you just don't know who to trust as you go through the book.
Now, there's something in the book that I absolutely love, and this is something that we've talked about before. And it's at the end of your book. You actually write a little section, and it's you put Gina Fava's The Sculptor playlist, and it's the songs that you were listening to while you were writing the book.
Okay.
Now, this is a question that I've thrown out before, and I'm always interested in the answers to this. And I don't know if I've even asked Ash and Sean this before. You're a movie maker, and you're writing your montage, your killer montage, when your killer is, you know, knocking people, you know, doing whatever he's doing, what's the one song that you're envisioning in your head while this is happening?
Um, really one that really kept coming back to me was Sarah McLachlan's Possession.
That's a
The
good one.
song itself was actually based on a note that she, I guess, was sent to her by a stalker, which I never knew when I heard the song, but the words of the song
Yeah,
basically was this guy wants to consume her more or less. And the eeriness of it, the fact that, you know, this person is just kind of looking over her shoulder all the time and all the things that he wants to do because he really cares about her, is something that really stayed with me throughout writing most of it. But a lot of Cure and a lot of their twisted songs actually
yeah.
kind of wound their way through as well.
Yeah, I
Sean?
find that. Yeah, I actually had a question because Rob and I talked about this earlier in the week after we read the book, and like I've aspired to write, and I've written a little bit of stuff, nothing that got published, but like one of the big things that I always love about my writing process is putting music to it, because to me it's like you're almost script writing what's in
Yeah.
your head. You're describing the movie that's unraveling as you go.
Yeah.
And is that kind of how you see it, or is it just more like you like to get the ambience of the music to create? I mean, I know that's part of it, but
That's a
to me
great
it's almost
question.
like it's there. It's like a background music already going.
Yeah. It's a great question because for me it's twofold. I spend a lot of time before I write each book researching, because I there's two different kinds of writer. One is you outline and then you write, or one is you just write by the seat of your pants. And for me, I like an outline because I like to know where I'm going and then fill in the holes as I go along. So as I'm researching, as I'm trying to make things kind of authentic, if I'm in Rome or whatnot, or trying to find different ways of killing people, I kind of have songs going through my head, and I'll be driving somewhere, I'll be in the shower, and a song will pop into my head, and I realize that's the scene. And so for me, it really drives it. And that's why the playlist is actually kind of significant. It really represents different scenes through the book for me as I'm writing it, and how strongly I feel the relationship is. And it is almost like a movie, because if I see it playing out in my mind as I'm putting it down on paper, that's the song. So yes, I will play it in the background for the ambiance to kind of, you know, if there's in my book, The Race, you know, there's a character being chased by a irradiated gamma gorilla, and that's a pretty heart-pounding scene. And so they're running to something that's, you know, Stone Temple Pilots or something like that. But yeah, it's influential, but
Do
then
you ever
it's also
find yourself like hearing the song and then kind of replaying it? Unfortunately, you kind of have that like, I'm now going to have to play it like 10 times in order
Yeah.
to finish writing out this scene.
for sure.
Yeah, because I've done that where I'm all like, then I'm like, I'll catch myself later seeing it, and I'm all like, oh crap, I'm never going to get this out of my head.
No,
until
and you
that
won't.
No, yeah.
But it's,
irradiated gamma gorilla. That is phenomenal.
well, lots of things
And-
can happen in Chernobyl. So, and when
Yeah.
it chases you back to Rome, I mean,
No, that's in your Hell Rangers series, right?
yes. I wrote a couple books that have to do with Formula One car racer who happens to be a covert agent, and his pit crew is the team of Hell Rangers. And it's kind of a broader scale thriller. It's more of one of them has a more of a terrorist angle. Another one's about kind of a murder that begins at a grappa producer in Italy, but it really has global ramifications for the water supply. So it's a different story than, say, The Sculptor, which is more of a targeted killer who, we need to find out who this is before they kill another person. Whereas I think my Hellranger series is more of a global type of thing.
See, now for me, my song is Hanson Mbop. That would be the song I would want, because so many people listen to that song and think it's a happy song. It's actually one of the most depressing songs that you'll know. I'm not joking. I'm being 100% serious, because the lyrics are, in an Mbop you're gone, and in Mbop you're not there. And it's talking about like, who's really going to be your friend as you age, as you grow old? Are these people going to be around you? Are you going to be alone? It's this, you really have to listen to it. And like, so for me, that like that montage of like when the killer's like popping out, taking some breaths, and an Mbop you're gone, and then gone, like that. Like, just to have like that weird juxtaposition, it's The Police, Every Breath You Take, like it was so many people's like prom song and wedding song. And then King comes out and goes, you guys do knows.
That's kind of messed up.
Or the Go-Go's Vacation, another one where the song is so up tempo and so poppy, but like the song's all about like, dude, get away from me.
Sean, you definitely include Mbop in your playlist.
I am. I actually, as soon as you said that, I had to look up the lyrics. Be like, wait a second, did I hear a different song than Rob did when that came out?
You just heard the music, and because the music is so
right.
Yeah.
Now I have to give it a listen.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't put that when Thanos with the snap. I mean, that would have been perfect.
Mbop you're gone. But are you reading the lyrics now, Sean?
I am, and there's this whole article about string theory on it, and I'm just like, wow, like totally different attitude with Hanson now. I didn't even know.
Like, because everybody heard that song and they're like, oh, these three little girls from Oklahoma, and then you found out they were boys, and then and you were like, it's a catchy little song, but in essence, he's like, you're gonna find out who still cares. Are they gonna care when you're losing your hair? You plant a seed, plant a flower, plant a rose. What's gonna, no one knows. All this. It's
I have never listened to those lyrics ever.
I was supposed to say now, like Ash, now kind of known Rob longer than I have. Did you know that he had like a shrine to Hanson somewhere that I didn't know about? I mean, I'm not judging. This is a no judgment.
There are a couple instances where Rob thought I was in the bathroom, and I had already come out of the bathroom and had sort of caught him in the middle of some of those rituals. So
did you have did he make you wear a blonde wig?
I can't remember much actually about those nights.
And you still haven't found my puppy.
No matter how many hours of therapy.
I'm telling you, if you have never read the lyrics to Mbop, you need to read them, because it is this total song about loss. It's about all this weird stuff. So like, I don't know, it just like Possession is such a great song too. And then the backstory of it. So like I could like reading The Sculptor and understanding like the sculptor's mindset from what I read in the book, I totally get that song now.
Yeah.
Being part of the creation of this book. And it's that's why I like asking out those weird questions, just because I mean, look, we just wasted 5 minutes, but I mean, we also got into like a weird, like where you were able to bring out a little bit of that thought process of what you went through. And that's, if we didn't ask that question, never would have got there.
Yeah. And the playlist, like, I guess people will put it in as, I don't know, a marketing tactic, but for me, it was pretty instrumental. And I think if the reader could play the playlist at some point, I think it would even further develop the book. So that's the reason I put it in there.
So what are a couple of the deep cuts on the playlist?
I'd have to look them up. I can't remember.
I have it right here. Give me 1 second.
Leave it to our crack research team, Gina.
Well, Uninvited by Alanis Morissette. It's not one of her bigger songs, but it's definitely deeper down the track. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. One Republic Secrets. That's a good one. It's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
deeper down.
Mm-hmm.
In Excess, One Thing. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
the song that they're remembered for, but
Yeah.
that great tune, you know. And then you forget, how poor Michael Hutchins, how gone and all that, but like, man, they were big for a long time, and
Oh
like they
yeah.
just kept churning out hit after hit. And One Thing, that was kind of the one that was lost in the middle a little bit. The
For
Cure,
me, that was the song that made them. So
really.
I think that's why it was important to the book.
And then The Cure, Why Can't I Be You, is another great, I mean, just a fantastic Cure tune. It's one of those ones that, like, unless you listen to the album, you never would have heard it because it's never on the radio,
Right.
not even college radio stations. If you didn't listen to it as a kid, you wouldn't even know it was there. And that's
Right.
awesome.
And after you've read the book and you listen to that song, it'll even have deeper meaning for you.
Exactly. Like, because I remember the song, and now I read the book, and I'm like, and that's why that playlist, like, it was important for me to bring it up, was because I was like, wow, I get this. I get it. More. I see it.
That's
more.
awesome.
It's like one of my favorite books is actually my favorite book is Pet Sematary by Stephen King.
Mhm. Yes.
And when he talks about it, and he talks about like listening to the Ramones and listening to all this different stuff while he was writing it, and like him envisioning the truck scene, he's envisioning the Ramones, on the radio, just like it happened in the movie, and it's like, it's so weird that, like, you kind of get that feeling that of like, okay, I'm there now. Because I
Yeah.
hear the song, I'm in it, I'm part of it. And that was awesome, having that playlist at the back of that book. It was an amazing idea.
That's awesome. Thank you. It's funny that you mentioned Pet Sematary, though. That was the first book that I told my son he needs to read if he's going to start Stephen King. But I have on my website like an all-time favorite list of best books, and Salem's Lot is actually the it book for me from Stephen King. It just scared the crap out of me, and I loved it.
And that leads us to another question that has interested me, which is, of any book that you've read, which is the book that you wish you would have written?
That's a great question.
We don't have any Jeopardy music queued up, but that would have been perfect for
Yeah.
it. So remind me, Rob.
Yeah.
Sound pad, Jeopardy theme.
It's funny. I know this sounds really weird, but if you've ever seen that little indie movie, Jurassic Park,
Yep.
the book
Is
by
so much
Michael
better.
Crichton is so amazing. And for me, I think after reading it, I sit there and think, oh, if I could have only written that. That's just, I mean, not for the commercial acclaim, but just for the fact that he was brilliant.
We actually did a show once where, like, we went through and talked about, like, things, a good, a bad, and an ugly.
Mhm.
And my ugly was, unfortunately, the Jurassic Park movie. As much as it was incredible to see all those things, I read the book and I was like, oh.
No, seriously?
Yeah.
No way.
It was an amazing movie, but it wasn't the book. It was, oh.
Well, the story itself is just an extremely tight story.
Yeah.
There's very few things in the book that's unnecessary. And that's very difficult to do as a storyteller. Is write with intent, but to have it so tight and so lean, even at a big volume, that you're writing and you're not writing unnecessary content.
Right. Could I excuse myself for one quick second?
Yeah, go right ahead.
What was your song, Ash? What would be the song for yours?
I've got a couple actually, which are kind of strange. I always think of Domino from Van Morrison.
Sorry, I got kids.
Domino from Van Morrison. That's
Domino
a good one.
from Van Morrison is one of them. I think of a lot, strangely enough, like I think a lot of Vegas residents, Tom Jones, Neil Diamond, stuff like that. Like as far as really bludgeoning someone to death, I think a little Sweet Caroline, dun dun dun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then just really hitting that crescendo. I
Yeah.
think is a good song to off somebody with.
See, now you're a
Um,
filmmaker, so I'm expecting that in the next one.
Well,
the,
it's
the
funny,
songs are
when-
visual for me. Yeah.
When I watched Face Off, the scene where they kind of shot everybody up, and they were playing, like the mother puts earphones on the kid, and he was listening to some beautiful song. It was lovely. It was something. Oh, it was not Oh, What a Wonderful World, but it was along those lines. Something like when you look upon a star.
Our resident Nick Cage expert doesn't know this.
You know, it's the Disney song.
No,
I
Ash.
forget.
Ash is like a closet Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Well, you
usually
should've-
I would come right
you
out. Of the
should
starting
know
gate and
this.
Yeah. However, tonight I am drawing a blank.
That's okay. It's like When You Wish Upon a Star, and they're playing this beautiful song as they're offing everybody. And it
Well,
was actually perfect.
And I love that sort of that interesting like juxtaposition where you've
Yeah.
got that
It
this
fits.
strange duality. You've got something that is very innocent and should be very, very calming, but then everything that's going on around it is in such stark contrast to it
Yes.
that somehow it fits, somehow it works. And like we're talking about, I tend to think visually because that's sort of how I work. So I usually look at these songs with, thematically, like beat for beat. How do we hit these beats? What's happening? As the song is sort of like nearing completion. Like how do we make that work visually? So yeah, for a lot of mine are older songs. I for some reason I always envision like a really grisly murder to The Chain from Fleetwood Mac. So it's like I have some weird songs that I pair with stuff like that. But that's
I
on
was
my
expecting you to
deep
go to,
dive
like-
list.
I was expecting you to go to like Red Right Hand.
And I do
You know.
love myself some Nick Cave. I
Yeah.
do. Almost anything from Boatman's Call
Yep.
actually it would work really well. But you're dealing with really like dark, like noirish sort of murder for stuff like Boatman's Call. But yeah, do love myself some Nick Cage. Nick Cage and Nick Cave. Nick's with Cage or Cave. Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, they're on their own club. So we've talked about the things that sort of scare people. Now we have a new segment that we're introducing that we call the Pant Shitometer, and I will go ahead and cue up our Pant Shitometer.
And shit-o-meter. Jesus Christ.
And the Pant Shitometer is basically what's the scariest thing that has happened, and it can be internally. Just a moment where your world was turned upside down. It can be something where it can be very visceral, something you saw, something you experienced firsthand, or it can even be something just conceptually that you thought of, and you're like, "Why the fuck is this in my head?" So give us that, and then give us a 1 to 10 of where that was on the Pant Shitometer for you.
Am I starting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a few things I can think of, but one I think was up there, probably for me, was an 8 out of 10. Because it was like a very near-death experience.
That's a pant
Went
leg and a half.
skiing.
Yeah.
I went skiing, and I was up in the Alps, actually. I was trying to impress a guy and decided I'm not going to stay on the slope that, the trail that's marked. I'm going to go off the trail. And in the Alps, that's not a smart thing to do. So there's, fresh powder, and I go barreling down the hill and start tumbling and lose a ski. So I try to walk to try to get my ski, and I end up literally up to here in snow, buried alive kind of stuff. And it was I'm a claustrophobic person to begin with. Like, forget about trying to get an MRI or something, but holy cow, it is like, you see quicksand things, you see everything that's in the movies, and it is the most terrifying thing because you're completely helpless. So the good thing was the guy was there, so he helped me out. It was all good in the end, but it was the most terrifying thing that ever happened.
Yeah, whenever I talk about the pants shitometer, I mean, for me, bar none, and this is something I have not experienced, thankfully. Why in the world would I or anyone go caving?
Caving. What's caving?
Spelunking?
Oh, spelunking.
Caving. Actually,
Oh, I love it. I've done it. Yeah.
Oh, go fuck yourself. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that, Sean.
I love it.
I love you to death, but
I
go
love
fuck
it.
yourself.
We're all
there
brothers
are
here.
passages that they call the birth canal.
Yeah.
Oh, I could never.
As a man over 200 pounds, I do not need to experience the birth canal. I need the area called the C-section.
You did already.
Right. I need the part of the kid
Once
called the
is enough.
cesarean. That's the only way I'm getting through it. So,
You need the,
so
fo-
have you
the foyer.
actually, have you been in an environment like that, Sean, where
Mhm.
it was a tight fit like that?
When I was younger, like when I was way long ago, when I was a teenager, my parents like would take us yearly when they were together. They would
I'm
take us
literally
yearly
getting
to a
nervous,
trip.
and you haven't started your story yet.
Yeah,
That's
and
how
we
horrible
would go.
I think
one
the
of
scenario
Well,
is.
I mean, but think about like everywhere you go to, almost. I mean, exception of like tropical places, almost everywhere you go to has, especially in the United States, has cave tours,
Oh yeah.
and they're cheap, they're easy, easy entertainment, especially for a teenager. I'm all like, oh, this is awesome, So me and my sister and my parents would take us, and there was a couple times we would be like, yeah, let's pay the extra money and go on this like they give you like a flashlight and a knapsack, and you basically a radio. One person get a radio in case you got lost, and then they'd say, okay, here you go,
Oh,
go
fuck that
explore.
all week long. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
See, no,
I would do it.
I figured for sure, Ash, you were going to say a cult.
Oh no, that comes in a close second. That's my biggest overall fear, because I would have to put myself into the cave, which is not going to happen. I mean, even though I've been in caves, like the idea of going, like I was in Hannibal, Missouri, went to a cave there. I'm fine with the idea of being in a cave that's open, but it's the claustrophobia of being in those small passages, and the idea of like getting stuck. I'm almost sweating
Same.
just thinking about this.
Yeah.
Of getting
it's
into a
terrifying.
passage where you are maybe angled down and then stuck. Oh, just
Yeah.
forget it.
No.
Forget it. Fuck that sky high. There is absolutely no way that I would even begin to put myself in that position.
I can feel your anxiety because I know you. Like
My
I know
heart
how
beats.
My
anxious you are.
shoulders feel tight. How does that happen?
So like his worst like saw like would be for somebody to make a giant like gerbil habitat and then put him into it.
Oh,
He would just be like, no.
And then you
What do I
eventually work your
do?
way out of Richard Gere's ass at the end of it,
Yeah, right, yeah.
and then get your money back. That's like your prize for getting out. But yeah, like no, it literally it starts to cramp. I start to cramp physically thinking of being like in that horrible situation and in that position. Just it's horrible. It's
now what if you
absolutely
were in a
horrible.
cave? What if you were in a cave that had like water at the bottom, so there was only like so much air, like breathing room at the top?
Don't even do that.
I'm just gonna keep piling on now.
I love both of you guys like brothers, but just fuck right off
What if there's
with
cultists
all of
on
that.
the top looking down at you,
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
God,
laughing and pointing?
just throwing pamphlets at me. Now
Yeah.
the pamphlets are getting stuck, and I can't see past my face.
You're trying to make a raft out of
And I
the
can't get
pamphlet.
my little
Yeah.
T-Rex fucking arm up there because now
It's
there's a
getting worse.
pamphlet. But no, yeah, cults are generally my worst fear. Like religious zealotry, like religious zealots are just scare the living hell out of me. this idea that someone is so committed to an idea that they can't conversationally admit that they might be wrong. And that concept that this idea is so self-consuming that they would murder children, they would murder relatives. I just can't. Like, it infuriates me and terrifies me.
So if there was a cave cult,
Oh, just throwing a couple sticks of dynamite.
Yeah.
Fuck them all. Yeah. It's Ascension Day.
all right, Sean, what's yours?
Oh God. Man, I guess like I got attacked by a dog when I was a kid. That was probably the most terrifying, like really terrifying.
Yeah.
Like I was like probably 8 or 9, and I didn't get really damaged a lot or anything, but this neighbor's dog who I loved, it was a boxer, and it would play with my dog who was a golden retriever, and they were best friends. And I was young enough to know, I think I was probably say like 8 or 9. I went over there to give the dog a treat because I just bought some for my dog, and I did the mistake of giving it to him and then trying to toy with it and like trying to take it back to be playful. And then it kind of did the, and I was like, I never heard the dog do that before. And then I did the worst thing, which is just run. And then it took me down, and it had a hold of me. It was kind of flinging me around, and thankfully, like the owner was there, the neighbor, the parents, my parents were there. They kind of got the dog off of me. I had a couple scrapes, cuts. It wasn't real bad, but I was like, oh my God, this thing's gonna eat me.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. I mean, because it ceases to become a dog. It's more of a monster at that point, right?
Yeah, we're talking about Stephen King and Cujo, and that's like the way I was like,
God.
It goes from being like, this literally like primal instinct. Like you're like, oh my God, this animal is going to devour me. And especially as a kid.
Yeah.
So
now, real quick, Rob, come in with yours, and then I want to hear what Gina's got lined up next and where we can find out more about what she's got currently in the pipeline.
You know me, I don't have one. I don't get afraid. You know that.
You've got a one-syllable safe word, Rob.
I know. I don't.
You've got fears.
I do not get afraid. I'm a paranormal investigator. What kind of paranormal investigator would I be if I got afraid of stuff? Oh, I do have one that I will tell you from. At first, it was a little freaky. Then I started laughing. I pulled over to the side of the road in my first Jeep Wrangler and rolled it. I was upside down in my Jeep, and I was like, why am I in a cornfield upside down? And at first, it was a little disorienting, and then I got myself out and started laughing hysterically that I rolled my Jeep over.
Oh my gosh.
But other than that,
well,
no.
we're going to make it a point now to find Rob's fears.
Yeah, the man of action.
Go ahead, poke
Rob
out.
Pastelli.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we want to thank you so much for being on with us tonight, Gina. If you can you give the audience a little bit of an idea of what you've got in the pipeline, as far as what you've got coming out, and also give people a URL and any social media where they can find out exactly where to get your books and to keep in contact with you, see what you've got coming up next.
Sure. Yep. I'm just about done with a historical thriller, which kind of spans a few generations from Italy into America and a couple wars. So it's Fall of Giants, kind of Ken Follett kind of feel. But the thing that I'm asked for the most is a sequel to The Sculptor. So that's definitely going to be the next project. I know where they're going. I just got to put it down on paper. So I'm pretty excited about it. And if you want to find out more, definitely reach out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can just look me up on ginafava.com and send me an email or check out, kind of where I'm at. Amidst the pandemic, the book signings have been kind of via Zoom, so you can do it that way, but hopefully you can get out there soon, possibly over the summer, and see it book signings and writer fairs, things like that. So hope to stay connected with all of my readers and future readers. It was really great to connect, guys. Thanks so much for having me tonight.
We had a lot of fun. Again, this is the fastest night on the
Was fun.
internet. This hour goes by so absolutely quickly
Really
for
did.
each and every one of us, and sometimes for the guests too. Sometimes they enjoy
It was
themselves
great.
enough that it actually seems to sort of zip by as well. So we want to thank you so much for being on. Do you have a couple moments off the air for us, Gina?
Absolutely.
As always, I want to thank my host. I want to thank everybody who was in the chat room tonight. Love having you guys in there. We will have some open lines coming up at some point in the near future. We will come back to that. Again, thanks everybody for also sort of being the litmus test for our news and also for the Pants Shit-O-Meter. Thanks everyone so much. We'll see you guys again next week, Thursday at 8 Central.